The good brother MarkyD123 recently uploaded a video talking about changes he would make to save Impact Wrestling. Now, as a guy who was a big TNA fan and someone who really dipped out of their interest for the company in recent years after their change to Impact, I agree with Marky that Impact needs to be saved and so much needs to be done. With his permission, I thought I'd make my own video talking about what changes I would make to Impact Wrestling to help save the company. And me and Marky actually agreed on a lot of things. You know, surprising, given he's meant to be like my arch enemy or something. But basically what I've got is, if Impact is given 1 year left to save their company, this is all the major changes they should make. Obviously it's unrealistic because a lot of the stuff they would just straight up never do, but if I got put in charge of Impact and said I was told to save the company, get it back to relevance, this is the attempt I would make and what I would do to try help that. The first thing we're doing is changing it back to TNA. If we have to make a last ditch effort to save Impact, we need to rename it back to the name it had when it was at its biggest. Total non-stop action wrestling. It needs to become TNA again, and it needs to get all the TNA branding back. The logos, the red logo, the cross the line stuff, the 6-sided ring is of utter importance. That is huge for Impact if they were to bring that back. And the main thing with TNA is getting back that star power. Now, it is impossible to get the star power that TNA once had with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, and all the other people they had there, Samoa Joe, everyone. It's impossible, but that's just because of the state of wrestling today. But there are a few names that I think are realistic in bringing back to the company. Let's go through each division and talk about what needs to be done and where. Starting off with the main event scene, which needs a complete revitalization because the main event scene for Impact is quite literally the worst of any major company. This is where the most changes really need to be made. Josh Alexander versus Eric Young was the main event of Slammiversary for the world title. That is just not going to cut it. You compare that to any other major company's main event scene, and it's just so far off. And so we need to get some big names in and start pushing some other names on the roster that deserve to be main event status. First of all, me and Marky completely agree on this. You need to bring back the Cowboy James Storm. He's still going. He's not signed to anywhere. He's not got contractual obligations to anywhere. You can get him for Impact. And Cowboy basically returns every year. He does like a 1 year return for Impact pretty much every year. And every time he comes back, the guy can still go. He gets a big reaction. He can still be a main eventer in Impact Wrestling. And I seriously mean that. Other names I bring in would be Rob Van Dam, get him back in, and also bring Katie Forbes along with him. The numbers they were doing were great for Impact. And also get W. Morrissey back. He was doing really great around the time he was in Impact, and really only starting to rise up, and they got let go the second he was really getting good and getting big again. So I'd bring back W. Morrissey. Other names that I would like to bring in would be people like Bray Wyatt, EC3, and Adam Scherr, but I just don't think that's possible, with Bray Wyatt probably being too expensive and EC3 and Adam Scherr being too committed to control your narrative. There's also Karrion Kross or Killer Kross, but I don't think him or Scarlett Bordeaux would come back given the contractual disputes they had with Impact while they were there. I don't see that ever happening. You can bring back Johnny Impact while you're at it though. He was kind of there for the last good period of TNA. You know what I mean? He was there before it really started to drop off a bit. So Johnny Impact absolutely can come back. And then on to the X Division. There's a few small improvements to make to the X Division. First of all, I'm bringing back Andrew Everett. He really showed up on that Slammiversary match and has really been making waves recently in regards to his work with DPW and DDT. I'll bring in Real One, aka Enzo Amore. I think he could be huge for Impact, and he's just a really great promo and a star. Jack Evans can also come in. He was meant to be at Slammiversary. He's an ex-AEW guy, got a lot of name recognition, and is a big pioneer in the wrestling business. And then other people I'd like to see come in are just old characters from TNA. Get someone back in the Suicide costume. Get Shark Boy back. Get someone in the Curry Man costume. And bring back Doug Williams, for God's sake. He's back in America. Let's get Doug Williams back in TNA. He absolutely can still go. Onto the Knockouts division, easily the division that needs the least improvement. It's easily the best part of Impact today, and only the real reason I still watch, and the part I tune in for. What me and Marky D absolutely agree upon is that Rachel Rose needs to be signed. She is going to be a star. I started watching DPW from the day they launched, and she was the one who I really just really caught an eye for, and I think she is fantastic, and she would work so well in the Impact roster, so bring her in. Other free agents you could bring in are Steph DeLander, the former Persia Pirotta, Megan Bain. She's currently recovering from injury, but she is an absolute beast of a woman. She is a great wrestler as well. Bring in Allison Kay while you're at it. Bring Sienna back. She's always been great. She's never been bad. And hear me out, if it's possible, let's bring in Lena Fanine, aka the former Nia Jax, and I really do mean that, and you'll see why. Onto the tag division, we need to stop pushing the Good Brothers. Now, I think they bring some sort of name recognition, and I don't mind if you want to release them or not, but if you do want to keep them, just don't push them as much. They don't need to be shoved down our throats the way that they are, okay? And other than that, bring back Davey Richards and let's have the Wolves reform, because Eddie Edwards isn't really that interesting any other way. We're also going to disband Honor No More, because I'm kind of quite sick of Honor No More on that storyline. You can get rid of Vincent and PCO, you can keep around Kenny King and Maria Kanellis, and Mike Bennett, if he has to stay because Maria Kanellis is staying, then so be it, he can stay too. And I also agree on Marky D to bring in Slice Boogie. That guy is awesome. I did an interview with him last year, and he's one of the funniest people ever. He's so charismatic and so great, and it's a proper tough guy. Bring him into Impact. Another thing Impact needs to do with talent is make sure to retain talent, because people like Deonna Purrazzo, Jordan Grace, and Josh Alexander, amongst a few others on their roster, the second their contracts are coming up, companies like AEW are going to try snap them up. So it's up to Impact to try and keep them locked down, because those are huge names to keep and the best people that they have on their roster. Other talents to sign later on once their contracts are up are EC3 and Adam Scherr, like I said, if they stop doing the control your narrative stuff, and to absolutely try and snap up Camille from NWA, because she is brilliant and a next big star in women's wrestling. And as it's TNA, we're rebranding every title back to the TNA title. We're not getting rid of any titles, we're keeping them all, including the digital media one, which is now the TNA Digital Media Championship. We're bringing back the six-sided ring, like I said, and we're getting Scott Steiner as your authority figure, because tell me that wouldn't be good television. And we need to run a TNA Reunion Show, and I have put together a little bit of fantasy booking for that show. There's going to be a Call Your Shot gauntlet with a bunch of loads of names in it, including, first of all, original Impact people, Sami Callihan, Rhino, Heath, Moose, Rich Swann, etc. But you're also going to get in Bully Ray, RVD, W. Morrissey, Slice Boogie, and Johnny Impact in this match as well. And this determines the number one contender for the world title. I'll give this match to Johnny Impact, because out of all these guys, he's the one that can probably still go the best and put on an awesome match. Eddie Edwards versus Davey Richards in a match where after it they come together again and reform the Wolves. I think that's a good idea to do. Either man can win this. Probably Davey Richards would make the most sense because he's the babyface. Brian Myers is going to defend the TNA Digital Media title against Real One, aka Enzo, because Brian Myers has done nothing with that title since winning it, and Real One winning that could bring some real buzz to their social media. So let's get Real One as the TNA Digital Media title champion. The Good Brothers defending against the Machine Guns. They're still the best tag team in Impact today, the Machine Guns. They're winning the titles, no doubt. They have never lost a step, those two. We're going to have an Ultimate X match with Mike Bailey, Doug Williams, Jack Evans, Andrew Everett, and Ace Austin for the X Division title. I'll let Mike Bailey retain that match, but this is a match that would be good to reintroduce Doug Williams to your Impact audience, as well as Jack Evans and Andrew Everett coming back in. Taya and Rosemary to defend against VXT for the Knockouts tag titles I should say. Either team can win this, two good teams, preferably VXT, but Taya and Rosemary are the baby faces, so they could retain it, because there are debuts coming up in a second. Jordan Grace defending against Lena Fanine in the Knockouts Championship match. This would be a good match, a proper Hoss match, the only time where Jordan Grace has an opponent that is bigger than her. Jordan Grace would retain, but after the match, Mia Yim is going to come stare her down, and Allison Kay and Rachel Rose are going to appear and attack Grace. They're going to attack her, and we've got a new stable there, a new heel stable. Mia Yim and Allison Kay were obviously a team already in TNA as Jade and Sienna, and let's bring in Rachel Rose as their young prodigy who can eventually leave the stable and rise up through the Knockouts division as her own. But having her in the stable to start with two great veterans like Mia Yim and Allison Kay is only going to be good for her, and that's a new heel stable we got there, and they can compete with Ty and Rosemary or VXT or whoever are the Knockouts tag champions. And yeah, this is mainly to get Rachel Rose rising up, but I think it's a good way to introduce Sienna and Jade back together. And obviously Sienna and Jordan Grace can feud for the Knockouts title, while Mia Yim and Rachel Rose go for the tag titles, and they can freebird them if they want to and hold all the gold. And of course the main event is Josh Alexander versus James Storm. And while I do think James Storm would be a good winner, I'm tempted to have Josh Alexander to retain, because again, you just need more main eventers. So let's build up some guys here. Have Josh Alexander be a main eventer, let him keep that main event status even with this change back to TNA. So we'll have him retain, and he can have a match against Johnny Impact, which that match would probably be really good at the same time. So let's do that. And yeah, that is pretty much my fantasy booking and all the changes I would make to Impact to help get it back to TNA. I think this would help a lot, to be honest, and I would much rather watch what I just booked than what is currently being shown on Impact. And I know that's very biased, but let me know if you agree with that. It's really just a main event scene. If they just revitalize the main event scene, I think Impact can start gaining popularity again, quite frankly, but they just don't have the star power or the talent to be able to do so at the moment. If Impact was an all-women's promotion, they'd probably be one of the best promotions in the world, because their women's division is fantastic. So we need an extended focus on that. Give them the main event time and the TV time they deserve, and they're not getting currently when they're the ones putting on the best television. They already get good television time, don't get me wrong, compared to other major companies with their women's divisions, but still, when Impact is as good as it is and better than the men's division, they should be getting equal, if not more, than them. Anyway, that's it from me. Let me know what changes you would make to Impact to kind of save that company. I don't think it necessarily needs saving. I think they're in a steady place right now, but these are the changes I would like to see if I randomly one day became the CEO of Impact Wrestling. That's all from me, guys. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.